Limits have been reached, but this time has been valuable as we do have new information that I think is going to be important for the court to hear concerning the child. So although we continued it, hoping we'd have an agreement, we don't have one here today.
All right. Counsel, unfortunately, we're limited on time, and this is an issue that really needs to get resolved today. I'll just let each attorney know that they've only got about 45 minutes of presentation time, so use it in the manner that they believe is the most productive and most necessary to bring the court's attention to the important points that you're trying to make. Do you wish to make an opening statement, Mr. Patterson?
Your Honor, I would waive opening, and I anticipated, knowing the court, that we probably would have some time limitations placed on our presentations. I just wanted to verify with the court the time limitation we have of 45 minutes. Is that time that will count on each person's case that would include their direct and cross examinations?
Yes, counsel.
Very good. Thank you, Judge. And waive opening.
Very well. Ms. Broyles, do you also waive opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Mr. Patterson, I'm going to have you go forward with evidence then.
Your Honor, I'll be calling Scott McMurphy. Tell the court how you are currently employed.
I work for the Butler County Sheriff's Office. I'm a sheriff's deputy, specifically with the Civil Process Division.
And can you tell the court your background, education, training?
I have a high school diploma from Augusta High School, and I graduated KLATC this year.
And how long have you been employed with the Butler County Sheriff's Office?
Just over 3 years. I started in February of 2020.
Can you briefly tell the court the different positions that you have held previous to the current position?
Yes, I started out as a detention deputy, and then I worked briefly as a booking deputy at the jail. I transferred out of the jail in October, and after FTO time and academy, I have been in civil process since then.
And during the time that you've had these different positions with the Butler County Sheriff's Office, has it affected the schedules that you have for work and hours that you work?
Yes, when I was working at the jail, I was on overnights on a 2-2-3 rotating schedule with quite a bit of overtime. Now that I've transferred out, I'm on a Monday through Friday with hours that I essentially make myself, day shift hours.
So pretty standard Monday through Friday, can be flexible hours during the day.
Anywhere from 5 or 6 hours, or days long as 9 or 10, just depending on what I need to fit my schedule.
Now, this is a 2016 case, so it's been going on since 2016. Can you tell the court during the time period this case has been going on, what all towns have you lived in?
I have lived in Augusta.
Okay. And do you currently reside in Augusta?
I do. My fiance and I have purchased a home in Augusta.
Okay. And your fiance is Megan Cooey, sitting here with you?
Yes.
And I also want to ask you if you know the different places during the time this case has been going on that the respondent has lived.
Yes, she has lived in Augusta. She spent time living in, I believe it was Lawrence or Kansas City when we were having to meet halfway in Emporia for swaps. And she is now living in Wichita. She's moved a couple different addresses through Wichita.
Okay. Now, can you tell the court your daughter's first name and age?
Eleanor, and she is 7 years old.
And what is the current parenting plan that you two are exercising?
So we have 50-50 custody. We have since we made an agreement back in 2016. It's based loosely around the 223 schedule that the sheriff's department that I was working at the jail.
And also then want to start asking you specifically questions about school. Currently coming up is the 2023-2024 school year. Can you tell the court chronologically what grade Ellie should be in?
Second grade.
And then kind of working back through her history of school. For 2020 and 2022, which would be pre-K, did Ellie do any pre-K classes?
Not that I'm aware of.
And so then to your knowledge, the first schooling she would have been kindergarten?
Yes.
And then 2021, 2022. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't hear the response. I'm going to direct the witness to answer yes or no and not mumble a response.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you.
And leading up to kindergarten, did you and Isabel have discussions about the kind of school that your daughter Ellie would go to?
Yes.
And can you tell the court what those discussions were?
Yes, we had a discussion on what we wanted to do for school because Ellie was of age to start. She wanted to start homeschooling. I know that the pandemic was a portion of that decision. She also did not particularly like her own time in the public school system. I made it clear that I would like her to go to public school, but that I would agree to the homeschooling at the time. She made it known that she could take care of the homeschooling during her half of the parenting time. And I agreed to it at that time.
So, and I want to make sure I understand what that means, that she would take care of homeschool during her half of parenting time. When did that mean that she was getting schooling then throughout a 1 week period?
So we were alternating 2 to 3 days at a time. And anytime that she was with her, she stated that she would handle the homeschooling hour requirement during that time.
Okay. So then on your basically two or three, there was no schooling going on?
No.
And that was by agreement of you two at that time?
Yes.
Now, during the kindergarten year, 2021, 2022, did you have any concerns or make any observations about the progress of Ellie?
I did not notice any progress problems during her kindergarten year.
And I guess as far as your expectations for her during kindergarten, was she meeting what you generally expected out of a kindergartner?
Yes, she was learning. She's recognizing, especially some numbers, but she was learning a lot of science and social studies, history, facts, like things that you could definitely tell she was learning.
And then as she progressed then to the first grade, did you have any further discussions about the form of schooling between kindergarten and first grade?
I don't remember if I pushed for a change in schooling at that time. I don't believe I did.
So then for the first grade year, she then continued with the 2022-2023 school year with homeschooling?
Yes.
Was it still on the same type of schedule for homeschooling so that it would be done when she was having parenting time with her mom?
Yes.
And that went on through the entire first grade year?
Yes, it did.
Now, through the first grade year, did you start making observations or having concerns about the progress Ellie was making?
I did. She was having a lot of trouble reading. Anytime I would sit down and try and work with her on reading, just in the evenings, of, oh, here's something, a word I want to try and make her read, she would get very frustrated. I noticed anytime she tried to write, she would write her letters starting from the bottom. And I wasn't sure at the time if that was the dyslexia it ended up being, or if it was something that she was being taught that way, or maybe something that wasn't being corrected.
So at the end of the first grade year, did you have any discussions, or leading up to the end of the first grade year, did you have any discussions with her mom about the direction you thought it should go?
I did, yes.
And what were those discussions?
So I had gotten Ellie to take the Fast Bridge test through Circle Greenwich Elementary.
And what is a Fast Bridge test to your knowledge, and where is it conducted at?
So the Fast Bridge assessment is the yearly state assessment to ensure that children are being on track through the public school education system. And with the results from Ellie's Fast Bridge test, she was shown to be just about 2 years behind, right at about the beginning of kindergarten on her reading ability.
And Judge, I want to, if I may, I'd just like to address the exhibits with counsel in the court. It was my understanding, talking with Ms. Kraft, that the attorneys and parties were going to stipulate to the admission of the exhibits, which in this case would be petitioners 1 through 4, and then the respondents' exhibits A through S. So this time, Judge, we would ask the court to admit those by stipulation.
The exhibits, by agreement of the attorneys in this case, will be admitted into evidence on both sides. You may proceed further, Mr. Patterson.
Thanks, Judge. Now, I'm going to have you look at what is marked as petitioner's exhibit 1. Is that the Fast Bridge test that you're talking about?
It is, yes.
And why was it that you wanted to get this Fast Bridge testing done?
I was worried that Ellie was not reading on the schedule that she should be. And I wanted to get a more formal test of that, other than just believing that she was behind.
And did it confirm your suspicions?
It did.
Were there any other concerns brought out of that test about maybe some issues that Ellie might have?
So The teacher who administered the test thought that dyslexia could be a problem, although at the time she recommended we let her go through another year of school till the end of second grade to have her tested for dyslexia.
Now, the mother, though, then scheduled a test for purposes of to find out what's going on with the Ellie. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you have seen the results of that. Is that correct?
I have, yes.
And I'm going to have you look at Petitioner's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, I do. It's my daughter's neurophysiological evaluation.
Okay. And you have now had a chance to review that. So are there some issues contained within that your daughter has, what are the issues contained within it of your daughter?
So it has a diagnosis for dyslexia, and it has recommendations to assist her through her ability to learn and go through the rest of her life.
Okay. And now specifically, I want to have you look at what is page down at the bottom. And the person who gave this test, you see where they made recommendations?
I do, yes.
And in fact, those recommendations are numbered 1 through 24. Have you reviewed those?
I have, yes.
And what would you be asking the court to do about those recommendations?
I would ask the court to order that Eleanor is placed into public school, where these recommendations could be placed into an IEP to assist her in learning, as well as these recommendations should give us additional things to do outside of the classroom with Ellie to help her learn through her dyslexia.
And that's something that you believe can be served better through homeschool or public school?
I believe that would be served better through public school, where the teachers have gone through years of schooling and special education in order to teach children with dyslexia.
Okay. Now, if the plan you're putting forth is public school, so have you explored the placements that are possible for public school for Ellie?
I have, yes.
And what have you determined as possible placements for Ellie?
For this school year, due to school having already started, the options currently are Lincoln Elementary in Augusta, as well as Circle Benton in Benton.
Okay. And now Benton, neither one of you are within that school district, is that correct?
That is correct.
Have you explored the ability to do an out of school or out of district placement?
In Benton?
Yes.
Yes.
And you're able to do that?
Yes, we are.
Now, why are you wanting to consider Benton as well as Augusta?
So initially we looked at Circle Greenwich due to placement between Augusta, where I live, and Wichita, where Isabel lives. Circle Greenwich has since filled up, but Benton is still available and still located at a middle point between our two houses.
And you would be asking that Ellie go to public school at Benton, and that you both use that as your exchange point. Is that right?
That is correct.
Have you determined whether they have services available for kids with dyslexia?
Yes, I have.
And what have you generally found out?
So both Augusta and Circle follow the recommendations found in the dyslexia handbook, and they have special one-on-one time for students with dyslexia available.
And as far as the handbook, are you talking about Petitioner's Exhibit 4, the Kansas Department of Education Dyslexia Handbook?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, are you concerned about these same services being available with homeschool?
I am. I feel that, especially now we know that Ellie has dyslexia and requires even more attention through schooling, I feel that those needs would best be served with a mixture of public school through professionals, as well as work at home with me and Isabel.
Yeah. Looking back for a moment at page 25, the recommendations that are made there, such as number 1, that Ellie qualifies for 504 accommodations. You'd be pushing for that to be made part of an IEP for her, is that correct?
Yes, I would.
Now, do you know if there's such a thing as an IEP in homeschooling?
It is possible, but it requires the payment of a paraprofessional to come and assist with administering that IEP.
Whereas in public school, it's just part of the program.
Yes.
Now, the decision of going from public school currently, you have a concern about putting it off, making sure that happens now for her future?
Yes. I feel that with Ellie being behind, the sooner we can get her caught back up, the better. And I feel the best way to do that is with educated professionals spending their time one-on-one with Ellie to get her caught up.
When you got the fast bridge for Ellie, was there a recommendation about what grade she should go into?
Yes, she was recommended to start public school in the first grade in order to attempt to get her caught up. It was brought up that she could jump back to the second or move forward a grade at some point if she gets caught up. It was also brought up that with her age, she would fit into the age group of either first or second this year.
And why is that age that she's at important to whether she could go to either classes and fit in?
She's going to be able to build better relationship with her peers if they are of a similar age.
Okay. Now, the person who gave the neuropsych evaluation, did you review Exhibit O, which was an email from her concerning this issue of what grade Ellie should go to?
I did, yes.
And when you reviewed Exhibit O, what recommendation did you gather from what she was putting in there?
To me, Exhibit O shows that Ellie could do either, being that two of her points contradict themselves.
What 2 points contradict each other?
Points 2 and 3.
Could you read point 2 for us?
I sure can. Repeating first grade can lead to lower overall achievement, poor self-esteem, as well as emotional and social problems. It may impact her negatively in the future.
What does point 3 say?
Being in second grade may lead to her feeling more overwhelmed because she cannot keep up with her peers. It may also lead to some behavioral issues due to frustration.
So did she really give a good answer of which grade is going to be best for Ellie?
She did not.
Okay. Now, if you look at number 1, what is the main focus about number 1 concerning?
The biggest point I get from it is that she needs extensive one-to-one direct instruction.
Okay. Has there been any discussions about the possibility of if she's not going to follow her peers, that could cause her trouble?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if she starts a new school, will she have the same peers as what she had in the homeschooling?
No, she will not. She would be gaining new peers, and there would be no second grade peers that she's left behind. She'd also be able to maintain her second grade status at Sunday school and maintain those peers as well.
Aside from what you testified about the teachers who are certified, that have experience, have education as being a benefit going to this public school, what is another benefit that you really want to see Ellie take advantage of at public school?
I want to see her take advantage of socialization. I know that she is getting social time with other children while with her mother. Unfortunately, when she's with me, that is not happening to the same extent. And I just believe it's important for kids to get that daily interaction with large groups of kids they may not get along well with. It's how you build those interactions.
Now, you testified that the neuropsych eval not only had recommendations for things in school, but also things out of school. Is that right?
That is correct.
Things for the parents to do. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that one of those is called sound case?
I am, yes.
And have you looked into a little bit of what that is and what obligations the parent you might have for that?
Yes.
And generally, what do you know about sound case?
So sound case is a form of teaching or tutoring children with dyslexia. There's an online course, I believe Isabel has already started, that parents can take in order to assist their children with dyslexia. And I also feel that I would like to take this course to assist Ellie outside of her schooling endeavors, because I'm sure she'll need help at home as well.
So you're willing to do whatever it takes to help her out at home and on your time?
Yes,
Have you read Exhibit Q previously?
I have, yes.
And is it your understanding that this is a program that the respondent may be suggesting as a possible classroom for Ellie?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of this classroom? What does it offer, advantages that there might be for it?
It offers a fantastic ratio of students to teacher. I believe it was 1 to 3. It's essentially a school just for kids with dyslexia to be able to learn.
And would that be a good thing for Ellie to do?
Of course it would.
Now, there's also financial issues concerning that. Is that correct?
Yes, there are.
And on this exhibit, it indicates financial obligations would be about $12,500 a year. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that possible for you with your current employment and obligations you already have?
No, that is not possible for me.
So short of a fantastic school that does cost more money than you might be able to afford, your request to the court is what? What are you asking the court to do here today?
I request that the court orders that Eleanor be placed in public school.
No other questions, John?
All right, does opposing counsel have questions for Mr. McMurphy?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. oh my gosh, excuse me. So you live in Augusta, correct?
That's correct.
And is the Circle Benton School, is that within the district of Augusta?
No,
So how are you able to get Ellie into that school?
they offer out-of-district enrollment.
Does your girlfriend work at Circle?
No,
She does not work at Circle. Where does she work?
she currently works for Ingalls Property Management, and she also works as a private practice licensed mental health counselor.
And so if Ellie went to public school and she went to Circle started classes yesterday, correct?
They did, yes.
And so if the court granted your motion today, Ellie would be starting school 2 days late. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And Ellie has never attended public school, correct?
Correct.
Did you assist in homeschooling Ellie in the last 2 years?
What was that? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Did you assist Ellie, or did you assist in homeschooling Ellie in the last 2 years?
No.
So it was all Ms. Chestic doing the homeschooling, correct?
Yes.
What curriculum did Ellie do in kindergarten?
I'm not sure.
What curriculum did she do in first grade?
I'm not sure.
Are you familiar with the co-op that Ellie participates in?
Yes.
What do you know about it?
I know that they offer classes. I believe it's 1 day a week. I have picked her up from said classes for my parenting time when they have finished before.
Do you ever participate in any of the activities through the co-op?
I have not.
So the fast bridge test that you had Ellie evaluated for, were you present when that was taken?
I was not.
Who was present?
My fiance, Megan.
Who did you consult with Ms. Chestic about having the fast bridge test taken?
I did not.
So your solution to the school issue is to put Ellie in first or second grade, correct?
No.
In you want to put her in first grade?
Yes, that is what I would prefer.
And so if you could go to Exhibit O in Respondents Exhibits. In this email from Dr. Tiedemann, she opines that repeating first grade can lead to lower overall achievement, poor self-esteem, as well as emotional and social problems. It may also impact her negatively in the future if she were to remain or repeat first grade. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what it says.
And you also testify that Ellie gets socialized with Ms. Chestic, but she doesn't get socialized with you, correct?
Not to the same extent.
Have you ever asked Ms. Chestic about the sound case training?
No, the sound case training has come up fairly recently. We have not talked about it.
Have you asked her for more information about the sound case in general?
About the what, sorry?
About sound case?
No, not yet.
So you didn't recognize that Ellie was dyslexic, correct?
Correct.
And you, in fact, when Ms. Cheswick brought it up to you about getting her tested for dyslexia, you didn't want to do that. Is that correct?
At the time it was brought up, yes.
So if you could start on page 73 of Respondent Exhibits. You see where, and this is, what are these? Do you recognize these text messages?
Do I see what, sorry?
Do you recognize these text messages?
Yes.
Are these text messages between you and Ms. Cheswick?
Yes.
So in the blue, it's Ms. Cheswick writing, "I'm here for Ellie, who right now needs my support while potentially dealing with something like dyslexia. Schedule changes affect her entire world." Do you see that?
Yes.
And then can you go to Respondent Exhibit page 80? You see in the black where you say, "You were so stuck on the dyslexia test when the teacher that gave her the fast bridge test recommended a remedial year of first grade prior to testing for it anyway." Do you see that where you responded to Ms. Cheswick?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Anything further for this witness, Mr. Patterson?
Yeah, nothing further for this witness.
Very well. You may call your next witness.
Your Honor, I call Megan Cooey. And Ms. Cooey, what is your relationship with Scott McMurphy?
He is my fiance.
And are you two currently residing together?
Yes, we are.
How long have you two resided together?
For the last 8 months.
And do you know his daughter?
Yes.
Can you tell the court what you would consider your relationship with his daughter?
Eleanor is my stepdaughter. She and I spend a lot of quality time together, especially while he was at the academy training. And we have a very typical stepmother-daughter relationship.
Can you tell the court what your education background is?
Yes. So I have a high school diploma from Circle High School, a bachelor's of science in human services and psychology from Friends University, and a master's in clinical mental health counseling from Emporia State University.
And do you have any license or certifications for the state of Kansas?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional counselor.
Let me ask you about the employments that you've had as a person in the mental health field. Can you tell the court your progression through employment?
Yes. So upon getting licensed with the state of Kansas back in 2020, I began working for Sedgwick County ComCare as the Valley Center mental health clinician. I then transitioned to South Central Mental Health, where I worked in the Circle School District. Upon leaving that, I created a district mental health program within the Circle School District as an independent contractor.
And what is it you did with the Circle School District?
I would work one-on-one with kids who either did not have insurance, so they therefore could not qualify for mental health services, or I would work with students who had more severe needs than what the school counselor could handle, but not severe enough to qualify for Medicaid or the severe emotional disturbance waiver.
Were you involved in setting up IEPs and such through those schools?
Yes, I was. And I would sit in and help develop the behavior intervention plans for IEP meetings.
Now, are you familiar with Butler County and any programs they have concerning kids with disabilities, dyslexia, or otherwise?
Yes. So Butler County has a Your Kid In program that the educational schools in Butler County have participated in. They typically try to send 1 or 2 teachers to gain additional certification for dyslexia and reading disabilities.
Now I'm going to have you look at Petitioner's Exhibit 3, which is a Wichita Eagle article from July 22nd, 2011, some time ago. Does it list out there Butler County as being a resource for dyslexia?
Yes, it does.
What are the other resources it's listed?
It also lists HeartSpring, the Fundamental Learning Center, and Rainbows United.
The Fundamental Learning Center, is that something that is being recommended as providing services for Ellie through the neuropsych?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And generally, are you familiar with the Fundamental Learning Center?
I am. I've recommended several students who showed concerns to check the Fundamental Learning Center, as they offered programs like Soundcase and additional tutoring for children with dyslexia.
Are you familiar with the Soundcase program?
Not intimately. I know it has been the standard recommended for several years, especially through the Fundamental Learning Center.
And through your work at Circle, are you aware if they have implemented the Soundcase in any way?
They have not implemented Soundcase specifically.
Okay. through your work through Circle, are you aware that you've been here during the testimony here? I believe you've also reviewed the neuropsych as well as the fast bridge. The issues that Ellie has, are they available in Butler County to help her?
Yes, there are several resources within Butler County that could help her as far as in the education system.
And having been involved in IEPs, have you also looked at the 24 recommendations made by Dr. Tiedemann in her report?
I have.
And are those things that can be put in an IEP for purpose of helping that student?
Yes, they are. They are listed out very similarly to what would be placed in the IEP.
Judge, no other questions?
Very well. Ms. Broyles, questions for this witness?
Briefly, Your Honor. On Exhibit 3, Petitioner's Exhibit, can you refer to that, please? So the Count Your Kid In, according to this article, is available for infants and preschoolers. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And Ellie is not an infant nor a preschooler, correct?
Correct.
And then on the next page, HeartSpring, it says it offers developmental screening for children from birth to age 5. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And Ellie is older than 5, correct?
Correct.
In the Fundamental Learning Center, and that's where Ellie was tested by Dr. Tiedemann, correct?
Correct.
And then Rainbows United also offers services from birth to age 5. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And again, Ellie is older than 5, correct?
Correct.
So really the only service that Ellie would be eligible for of these 4 options is the Fundamental Learning Center, correct?
Correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any follow-up questioning from you, Mr. Patterson?
No, Your Honor.
You have further evidence to present.
Your Honor, no other evidence.
Very well. Ms. Broyles, do you intend to present evidence at this hearing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call Respondent Isabel Chuffick.
Ellie just turned 7 on August 1st.
Do you homeschool Ellie?
Homeschooling is a part of the education plan we do with Ellie. We're a part of a blended learning program. So as of right now, we do homeschooling. We go through a co-op called Central Homeschool Family Ministries, CHFM, and we'll occasionally take outside courses.
And how long has she been in the hybrid program that you're talking about?
The hybrid program itself starts at seventh grade. Oh my goodness, no, it starts at the 1st grade. So CHFM and the blended learning somewhat started 1st grade, but as we did kindergarten, we did also use outside resources. We took some classes through Wichita Art and Museum Education, exploration place. We go into the Great Plains Nature Center to get hands-on.
So essentially, Ellie's always been homeschooled to one degree or another.
Fair enough.
And so she was in 1st grade last year?
Yeah.
So she's done kindergarten and 1st grade homeschool? Okay. Why did you decide to homeschool Ellie?
Through my job, I've been highly involved in the homeschool community since about 2015. It's my job to put on the Teacher Parent Association graduations. And as early as that, I would see students graduating with hopes to go into 4-year colleges, already into those colleges with scholarships, with individualized learning plans, with special interests, many with associate's degrees. And it was just such an incredible experience to see. As we moved up and learned about that, learned about the excessive resources, which is has in particular for homeschooling. We've got our own sports teams. We've got our own robotics team that was state ranked this year. We have co-ops such as CHFM, which I involved us in as soon as we could, that bring numerous benefits that we would normally not get without that typical school experience. We had Life Touch school photos this year that we purchased. We go into classes with educated teachers, oftentimes with degrees in the subjects that they're teaching for our elementary school extracurricular courses.
So why did you decide to homeschool over public school?
At the original time of going into public school, it was about fall of 2021. Ellie, even back then, really hadn't had socialization through nursery school because of COVID. Throughout 3 and 4, we shut completely down. We had no options for preschool like we planned. And at that time, an individualized learning plan just seemed like a better fit for her. She was so smart in so many areas, but even back then, computing math was starting to get easy for her. We could do 1 + 2 = 3 very, very early. And with all the opportunities available, there didn't seem to be a reason to go into public school.
Was Mr. McMurphy involved in the decision to homeschool her?
He agreed to it in fall of 2021. We're coming off COVID. We're coming off of his divorce at the end of 2020. And it was really just a matter of get her into an education where she can go. And I had these resources. I had this plan. We knew so many people. Ellie had already socialized through church with a few people that were involved with the CHFM. So she already had built-in friends. And at that time, it was a building that she could really call home. I've worked within the CHFM building at the Central Christian Church site and kind of share operations for years. Ellie had been exposed to it when she was 6 years old.
Did Mr. McMurphy make it known that he wanted Ellie to go to public school?
Never with any reason. At most, it was a sure, let's maybe eventually talk about public school because homeschoolers are just kind of weird. They don't socialize, they don't know anybody. And that has since proven to be incredibly false.
So he did agree to homeschooling Ellie.
Yes, both years.
Okay. So let's talk about the curriculum that you do when you homeschool Ellie. So please refer to Exhibit A of Responding Exhibit in the book. Can you tell me what this document is?
So first, to keep track of our homeschooling, kind of to narrow down what she's been learning, how she's been learning it. We like to write course descriptions with the instruction, maybe extracurricular materials for everything that we're doing. We like to be able to follow Kansas state standards. It's very much a requirement. So just making sure that we're on the right course. Here we have the instructor for every course we're completing, a course description, the curriculum and materials, the sites that we're doing them at, although that's no longer comprehensive. This was typed up before we got our official dyslexia diagnosis.
So did you create this?
I did, yes. In conjunction with other resources, CHFM clearly posts their course description. So we have things like that within it. They clearly post the credentials for all of their teachers and biographies. So 20 of those came from that.
So are these the course descriptions for the courses you're going to do with Ellie this upcoming semester?
Yes, these are this upcoming semester. The CHFM classes we are already enrolled in elementary school, they offer enrichment courses. But when we get to middle school, they do offer middle and high school core classes that follow campus state standards.
So you said that this isn't up to date because this was typed up before Ellie's dyslexic diagnosis.
Sorry.
So did you add in any additional courses or anything like that to accommodate Ellie's diagnoses?
The curriculum itself is up to date. The course descriptions are up to date. I would only add that we have since added in these accommodations and things that would say maybe site at home. We've added site, the advanced learning library, or we can take a break every 15 minutes and go hang out on the play skate as according to our accommodation. Or the Great Plains Nature Center has a growing space, so we can go up to the space. We've added some extra materials into all of these, and she's now a very physical, visual, spatial learner, as she always has been, but it's great to figure out what works for her.
So so are there additional courses that you added to accommodate, or is it more within the?
No, we have mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that we added in the second semester for first grade year. Her father has ADHD and had already made comments of seeing signs of ADHD, which is one of the things that we were diagnosed with. However, as our tests were explained to us, ADHD and dyslexia go very hand in hand. So if we're getting the ADHD information, that mindfulness will end up helping. So we've already had that course in. If anything, it's been bolstered. We've added in new curriculums and extra videos. Games is a little more comprehensive now. Curriculum materials includes a lot more physical things. This is me doing our symbol for addition because now we're adding in motion to most of the things that we do.
And why are you adding in these extra things that you might not have done?
The specific accommodations from Dr. Tiedemann, which are within our exhibits, but I just happen to have them printed out here.
So you added in Dr. Tiedemann's recommendations after you received them. And remind me, when did you receive the recommendations?
So we got the report itself without any of the recommendations. So not the 25-page report, but she did a brief overview the day of testing to say, yes, she doesn't qualify completely for dyslexia. At this time, I'm leaning towards she might also have dyscalculia. I think she has dysgraphia, but typically I don't like to diagnose that before age 8. But we're showing all the signs here. And she does show signs for ADHD. After we had gotten the full comprehensive paperwork back, which she gives to you after she reviews all of her tests, she holds it over, she types up this 25-page report. She was officially diagnosed with dyslexia, dysgraphia, which is writing to dyslexia reading, and ADHD.
So when did you receive the recommendations?
I received those recommendations, I think the Saturday after, so second, Wednesday, third, fourth, I'd say the 5th or the 6th.
Okay, so August 5th or 6th, and then how soon thereafter did you incorporate the recommendations into the curriculum?
That was one of my first steps. My very first step was calling the other resources that I knew. We had a cousin that was a speech pathologist. I contacted her. We have a few friends that have worked in worked within masters in gifted programs or STEM teachers and that have worked in the Wichita public schools for years. So I asked their opinion. Plenty of moms through CHFM have children with dyslexia, which led to our individualized program, and to support that, I asked their opinions. Overall, it was eye-opening a lot. Dyslexia and dysgraphia are lifelong learning disorders that she will need accommodations for.
Counsel, can you get the audio microphone closer to her? She obviously is not addressing the court, she's addressing you. And I think the fact that she's turned away is part of the issue.
Yes, Your Honor. So let's go to Respondents Exhibit B. Can you kind of flip through these? Well, first, can you tell me what these documents are?
These are the first pages or a few examples of our curriculum, our worksheet curriculum, not all the materials that go with it. So for the first and second grade, our base core curriculum is done at home by us. We have a selected Common Core curriculum. I really love what they give us. It's all comprehensive. It follows state standards. It's very easy to make your own. So first is an example of our language arts homework. What would typically happen since she isn't reading is I would read this out to her, and then we will write sentences correctly, add capital letters. Despite the fact that she is not writing yet, she has been very good at sentence structure so far. Returning pages.
So on Respondents page 10, briefly, can you kind of tell me what this is and how you use it?
This is one of our math worksheets. She really loves this math curriculum because it's so visual. So we're on a spatial line here. She's writing the number that is just before, after, or in between. I would read out these instructions to her. She would observe on the paper. We run through maybe 2 or 3 problems together. If she shows proficiency, I'll step away, and then she's demonstrating herself that she can do those problems. Hopefully, is with these accommodations, whereas we used to do a full worksheet for a lesson and probably get a little frustrated in between, we started to only assign half of a worksheet for our lesson. We'll save the second half for either a review time at the end of the day, which we have scheduled, or if we already have sufficient review materials, we'll put that into a testing unit at the end, just to lighten her workload as soon as she shows efficiency.
And let's go ahead to Respondents page 12. Can you tell me what this is?
That is our first start of the sound case material. So since we've had our dyslexic diagnosis.
So hold on. Can you, why don't you tell me what is sound case? We've heard about sound case. Can you kind of briefly explain what that is and why you're using it because of Ellie's dyslexic diagnosis?
The sound case material is a curriculum developed by the Fundamental Learning Center through their 25+ years of research. This is a phonic awareness curriculum, the first step to going into structured literacy curriculum, which is the proven method for teaching dyslexic children. In short, for us in particular, it's an intervention program. We start with our phonic awareness. We have 4 steps, and phonic awareness is just a fancy way of saying getting sounds. Dyslexia itself is a problem with decoding and encoding, meaning Ellie cannot associate sounds and symbols well. She may memorize an A. She knows it's called an A. She's fantastic at that. But if you need to say A means ah, for an average student, that would take 10 times. For Ellie, that would take anywhere between 350 and 1,500 times if we don't intervene in this way. Teaching with phonic awareness first teaches her what the sounds are. And then secondly, well, through the sound case materials, we'll have a book with every lesson. That book will spend our entire week through our sound case, reading it over 5 times. First, we'll go through the phonologic awareness. We'll pick our vocabulary words, break them into physical manifestations. The word caterpillar, we have the very hungry caterpillar on our list. Cat-ta-pill-ler, but with a physical magnetic board in front of you so she can physically see syllables there. Her visual spatial skills are off the charts. So we start with phonic awareness. Then we move into the letters. After we move into the letters, we're starting to go through what are the different parts of a book? Are we reading from left to right? This is a spine. This person who wrote this is an author. Can you say author? Let's put those together with your blocks. The next time you're reviewing, you may say, Ellie, show me the front cover and the back cover and the spine. Those are all proven methods to slowly help her start reading. Through the sound case material, we get 36 weeks of material. We get 36 separate lessons with full-on materials and training to teach them. We have all comprehensive training, not just to help kids with dyslexia through the training. It is to teach this material accurately and well. After we go through the sound case material, we are looking into structured literacy programs. So our plan for this year, and at least this semester, will be to do the core classes at home with the accommodations made the way Dr. Tiedemann recommended, on top of the sound case learning material, introduced the way I have done it with the training, but I am more than happy to share. Repetition every day is key. If anybody that would like to help train and go through this material with Ellie, I am more than happy to give and very excited to.
So no, you're okay. So let's go back to respondents page 12. So this is an example of what the sound case looks like, correct? And then respondent page 13, is that also the sound case?
Yes, this is still the sound case.
Okay.
This is a different part of the same lesson.
Okay. And so you've taken the training for sound case,
Yes, I have.
correct?
And that is available online for anybody that we give the transfer to.
And has Mr. McMurphy asked for assistance with the training? Have you talked to you about sound case at all?
I didn't know he was aware of the sound case material until today.
So can you kind of briefly tell me, how do you decide what curriculum that you do with Ellie through your homeschooling?
We always follow Kansas state standards as we're going through curriculum. We like to go off the recommendations of others. I am by all means not alone in this blended school journey. Oh goodness, was it 20? Last year, we've been living in our home for over a year now. We decided to make a move for Ellie and moved ourselves into the home of a friend who completes blended learning for her 2 daughters. So we occupy the basement apartment of their upstairs home. Occasionally we'll do classes together when we're a bit on the same levels. Ellie's very good at math. One of them kind of struggles in math, so we can really put that together. So we got lots of recommendations. You can get plenty of information through CHFM itself. CHFM has 50 plus years of curriculum all to themselves. Extensive research, anything that checks mark boxes.
Has Mr. McMurphy contributed or participated in deciding the curriculum?
No.
Did you change or base this year's curriculum off of Ellie's diagnoses?
Changes, absolutely. I'd call them more adaptations to what we already have, because as we've been moving through our blended learning journey, we've figured out that we've already made some of those accommodations. Plenty of the time we've observed Ellie works through visual spatial reasoning. So we've already added some dance moves. We'll like to sing things through song to teach her how to do the days of the week, the parts of speech, times tables.
So let's talk about Ellie's homeschool schedule. Can you please refer to respondents exhibit D as in dog? A schedule.
So I have 3 examples of schedules in here. Oh, actually, we're in example D, which only has our first week schedule.
So is this week A schedule, is this what
I do a week A and a week B because we're on a 2-2-3 schedule, and our weeks don't look identical.
So the week exhibit E is the week B schedule, and so week A and week B are in conjunction with each other.
Correct.
Right. So can you tell me, did you create this homeschool schedule?
I did.
And so you said you created this schedule because you're on a rotating 2-2-3 parenting time schedule.
Correct.
And so each week looks a little different.
Correct.
So on week A, Thursday and Friday and half of Wednesday, there's no school schedule, correct?
Those are the times she is with her dad.
And then on exhibit E, the week B schedule, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, there's no school schedule.
Also times she's with her dad.
So pretty much all the time she's with you, she's in school.
Mhm.
And then the times when she's with dad, she's not doing school, correct?
That is so far what has been the case.
And did you start school for this year?
We did already.
And when did you start that?
We started Monday in accordance with our schedules. We figured we'd move forward with the status quo until a new decision is reached. Everybody else had started school by Tuesday. So Monday, we started with our mindfulness class. Then we've gone through the first lesson or so of sound case reading. We're currently reading Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Our brain breaks have actually adjusted a little. We do use PBS Kids and Code Academy and even occasionally Fun Brain, but with the doctor's recommendations came a list of dyslexic websites to use. And we've started to utilize those as well.
So have you modified the school schedule in light of Ellie's diagnoses?
A little bit, very much. We'll take consistent breaks. This week in particular, we got to label it out. We got to extend it out. We probably went until about 5 o'clock with a few added breaks in there. Our goals with our breaks is to build on more and more. We're starting this week with 15 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 15 minutes on, 10 minutes off, with a goal of 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off in 3 weeks, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, hopefully getting up to an hour.
Do these schedules that you've created allow for the amount of schooling time required by the state?
Yes, they do.
And so you follow pretty closely to the state's standards.
Yes, we do.
So you've been talking a lot about CHFM. Can you tell me what CHFM is?
There are many homeschool blended learning cooperatives throughout Wichita. We've selected CHFM for a multitude of reasons. They're one of the biggest around. And I think in one of my exhibits, I have a pretty decent description of it.
Can you tell me what this is?
CHFM is a homeschooling cooperative currently serving over 100 families, contracting 20 plus teachers, but offering unique benefits to homeschooling parents of Wichita. You know, a bit of a fluff sentence. For elementary students, they offer enrichment courses, meaning while I do our core class work at home, all of the things that would follow in line with the Kansas state standards, for the most part, as in some of her classes at CHFM might also fall into Kansas state standards for elementary school. Ellie takes enrichment courses through that place. Some of the benefits included our school pictures, our school field trips. We went to the PBS Kids TV station. We went to the pumpkin patch together in the fall, and Scott and his fiance got to join us for that. She has semesterly program nights. So last semester, she learned to play the recorder for her music class and had a fall program night that all of our family attended. Scott, his parents, his grandparents, my grandparents all got to see her play on the stage with her noise canceling headphones, because even back then we knew she was having some auditory issues. They offer STUCO once you get through into middle and high school. Once you're into middle and high school, CHFM switches to being able to offer core classes from qualified teachers. So if we wanted to graduate according to Kansas state standards, all of those are not only available through CHFM, but they have tracks for what you might want to accomplish. Math through a 2-year, science through a 4-year, slowly things like that.
So you do what you would call core classes at home, and then she does kind of additional classes at CHFM.
For elementary school, yes. Although this semester she has a particularly exciting science course that should help cover our science curriculum requirement.
And so who teaches the classes at CHFM?
Varied qualified teachers. Within my course descriptions, I have both the teachers of all of her classes and their qualifications. They vet teachers beforehand. She recently had a literature and fairy tales class that was taught by someone with a master's in literature that ran things through with her brilliantly. They oftentimes have bachelor's degrees. They always have at least some college credit.
Oh, and so what courses will Ellie do this semester?
This upcoming semester, she signed up for physical education through PE, especially with an ADHD diagnosis. We feel that physical education is really a requirement for her, helping her learn to channel all of that extra energy. She's taken art from Mrs. Dahl, which we are so excited for. She's incredibly artistically inclined, and this teacher has 10 plus years experience in public schools and private schools. She's an accredited art teacher. And then we have fun with atoms and molecules with a teacher that's been known to be very hands-on. It's basically a hands-on science class, learn through experiments. We'll do a lot of life science projects. And all of these people have their own children in CHFM or have been heavily involved for a decade or more.
So why did you choose these courses for her to take this year?
CHFM courses are offered with every semester. It depends on what teachers they have, but they always have very good ones. We had other opportunities like performing arts, but really the science hands-on course fit her. I've been wanting her to get into that art class for as long as we've been at CHFM. It's a brilliant teacher, a class I think she'll love. And PE was really focused on an ADHD diagnosis that we were expecting. It's also genetic, and her father was known to have it.
So you've kind of touched on the benefits of CHFM. So is one of those benefits socialization?
Oh, absolutely. Every day. Well, every Monday from 12 to 3, she's in 3 separate classes, all with kids never more than 2 years older than her. They're in the same developing level. It definitely depends on the class you have. If it's more curriculum heavy, as in a class with real homework, not necessarily PE, then they will make sure the ages are closer together. But for physical education, it's 1st through 3rd grade this year.
And if you can refer to Respondents Exhibit K. Can you tell me what these are pictures of?
That was her health and nutrition class this last semester. We were all a little bit worried because she wasn't eating foods put in front of her. I think it's involved a lot with this health and nutrition class. She learned what proteins are, what grains and milk are. And this is a photo of her with her classmates.
And so Ellie is in this picture.
Ellie is in a pink poppy shirt with a name tag that says Ellie Chesick on it. 2 over is her friend Jersey. She went to her birthday party this last year. And she's had many classes with multiple of these children.
And then on page 40, what is this a picture of?
That's another one of her classes. That was Games in Motion when they couldn't, oh wait, I am actually on 41, but sorry, that is her fairy tales and literature class. Ellie's in front kneeling in a long sleeve light purple shirt, and she's hugging her friend Gemma, whom we share a home with. They got to share that class together.
And then 41?
That one is our Games in Motion class. It's a very visual spatial education class that was about learning patterns and getting out your exercise, and that's her engaging with one of her classmates.
And did that help with, with the dyslexia diagnosis? Or was it the class that helped her with that, which she was likely struggling with, even though she hadn't been diagnosed yet?
These and other classes did. A lot of moms recommended to me at the time, and through those classes, a lot of cross-body cognitive movement to get the 2 brain hemispheres working together. Ellie is one of the youngest in her class, so we didn't immediately jump to a dyslexia diagnosis. We tried a few other things first. And a lot of those classes, such as Games in Motion, really helped with that.
And then page 42 and 43.
42 and 43 are still in our Games in Motion class.
So does Ellie have friends at CHFM?
Oh, absolutely.
So do you think Ellie's being properly socialized?
Oh, absolutely.
So what has been Mr. McMurphy's role in homeschooling Ellie?
Little to none up to this point.
Does he participate in making decisions regarding curriculum?
He does not.
Does he homeschool Ellie on his days?
Not as far as I know. When they brought the ELA assessment to me, they mentioned that they had been running through workbooks with her, but after requesting those workbooks, maybe copies of her work, the covers of the curriculum, I've never received any of that.
Do you send homework to be completed by Ellie on his days?
I have sent homework home before. I don't want to say never come back completed, but I would say never come back fully completed, especially within March when we were dealing with police academy and multiple adults picking her up through exchanges, sometimes his mom, sometimes his dad, sometimes Megan. It was all a little hard for everybody to keep track of what's in her backpack and when. We had a few nutrition course packets not come back.
Are you employed?
I am.
Where do you work?
I work at Central Christian Church. I'm the production manager.
And that is what CHFM is through, correct?
CHFM is a ministry of Central Christian Church, but they are separate entities.
How many hours per week do you work?
Anywhere between 22 to 35, usually averaging around 30.
So how do you homeschool Ellie when you're working 30 hours a week?
My job is technology-based. It's very flexible. I run events. I help our volunteer team. And for the most part, I make graphics. I can do that at home. And because I've been employed at my job for a decade now, I'm highly trusted. While the same way any public school teacher could get work done, while Ellie is finishing the rest of her worksheet, I am potentially making adjustments on a graphic in the corner. And then when she's ready to review, we're all reviewing together and attentive and fully aware.
So when did you realize that Ellie was struggling with reading?
We realized early on, not necessarily that she had dyslexia, but that something wasn't quite right. By early on, I'm going to say solidly by about 6.5. It was her computation and math was off the charts. She had her 5s times table down, but she still couldn't tell me that T is t, t, t. There was no rhyming involved. So around March of that time, I approached Scott for her health insurance information. I currently don't have access to any of her health insurance. It's been through the sheriff's department. It's just much better than the health insurance available for my work. And approached for an eye test. Every member of his family wears eyeglasses. Multiple family members of mine wear eyeglasses.
Okay, so I'm going to have you back up a little bit. So you realized that Ellie was struggling with phonics and reading. So in order to figure out what was going on, what was the first step?
if we're going back to our initial first steps, far back, it was adjusting our curriculum with things like cross-body movement, a few things like extra mindfulness courses for what we deemed was maybe for ADHD. And then the first step getting towards a possible answer, is this dyslexia? Is this a different learning disability? Is this her eyes? We needed her vision tested.
So the first step was getting her vision tested.
Vision testing is the first step of a dyslexia diagnosis.
And so did you get her tested for vision issues?
Yes, eventually.
And what was the result of that test?
She has 20/20 vision, but she has slight cataracts in the corners of both eyes. They're very, very small. It's something to keep an eye on. We scheduled an appointment a year out. We are there and ready.
So the issue wasn't her eyes.
The issue was not vision.
So then what did you do next after you ruled out vision issues?
I immediately went into research mode, trying to find what center, what resources are the best getting her towards a formal diagnosis, if any. It was very clear that she had a learning disability, just due to the nature of who she was. She was incredibly smart, but this one thing wasn't clicking. I would describe it often as, she knows the letter A, she can memorize that, but she's not getting that A means a. When dyslexia was brought up, I had the understanding that it just meant she's reading and writing backwards. The numbers are oriented differently on the page. And at that time, that description wasn't matching up with what I was hearing. But after, we're getting to what I did. Through all of this, I also wanted to look into formal ADHD diagnosis. I had brought up dyslexia with her father before, and an ADHD diagnosis seemed imperative because it's what he had. The Fundamental Learning Center was the only place I could find that was as highly recommended as possible. Different moms from CHFM, different expert opinions from our gifted teachers with master's friends, from our speech therapist, that is her job. All highly recommended the Fundamental Learning Center for diagnosis. So we called and got their earliest available date, which was August 2nd.
And so she was evaluated.
She was evaluated.
And what was her diagnosis? And that's located on page 57 of Respondents Exhibit M.
I also let you know you have 2 minutes of presentation time remaining.
Okay, I'm going to actually have you skip forward so we can get through some of this.
That is Pam on her side.
So let's talk about the Rolf Literacy Academy. Can you tell me briefly what the Rolf Literacy Academy is?
The Rolf Literacy Academy is an intervention school. It is for dyslexic, dysgraphic, and ADHD children. It was basically built for kids like Ellie. They have a 4-to-1 reading ratio and a 10-to-1 math. Nope, 1-to-4. One teacher to every 4 students, in case that's not clear. Reading ratio. They work primarily on structured learning, which comes after phonic awareness for us. With math, they have multisensory math programs that I have the names written down here. I believe they use Stern Math. And it's basically, and then for their electives, they offer social studies and life science classes.
So it's a comprehensive curriculum.
Complete comprehensive curriculum, that is correct.
And have you determined whether or not Ellie would be able to attend, or when would she be able to attend?
We are currently on the wait list. In October of this year, they are building a new school that will expand their capacity of 60 students to 120 students. We are on the wait list, and they are confident that we will have a spot this upcoming semester if we want one, but they are certain we are guaranteed a spot in August of 2024. It's currently 2023,
and
our next school year.
So the scholarship, or the cost, is quite expensive, about $12,000 a year. Have you looked into scholarships?
No, I took a tour of the Rolf Literacy Academy yesterday. In the next sentence of the exhibit, actually, after it lists, so I'm on page 83, the tuition for our school is $12,500 per school year. Scholarship assistance, if needed, begins with the application process. It is financial based. We come in, we meet with their scholarship team. They take all of the necessary financial records, your tax records, your expenses.
So it's income based?
It is income based.
And so that's something that you guys could look into moving forward?
Absolutely.
Okay. And one other thing I wanted to address with you, the IEP. Can you get an IEP even if you're not in public school?
Yes, IEPs are to serve any of the students in your area. That includes homeschool. I myself qualify within the Gammon School District. So I've approached Gammon about setting up a homeschool IEP. Gammon itself does not have dyslexic or not necessarily does not have dyslexic services, it doesn't have gifted services, but it goes within the resources of USD 259. So we will likely be shipped to Isley Elementary for their IEP. And it basically follows, especially if we're blended learning and have an open schedule, we can go to whoever is the top expert within USD 259 for whatever days a week we want. Ideally 3 days a week for maybe 30 minutes a day.
So she can get an IEP and be homeschooled.
Absolutely.
And do you think it's in Ellie's best interest to attend public school?
I'm worried for her socio-emotional, any of it. Her walking into a second grade classroom for the very first time, not knowing how to read when everybody else there does. The best case scenario for a public school is for a para to follow her all day, for her to feel so out of place. However, with an individualized education plan, with an IEP through the resources of the school, with the sound case learning system that they've trained us to go through, and afterwards with the World Literacy Academy intervention, getting an IEP and a 504 now will follow her all the way through school after our intervention school is done. The intervention school includes resources for assistive technologies that she'll use for the rest of her life. It shows her how to use talk to text or talk pens. They run through the legalities of recording your teacher's talk, how to ask them how to do that.
So your request to the court is to allow her to remain homeschooled until and if you can get her into the World Literacy Academy, correct?
Yes, which we have a guarantee of for the next school year at the very least.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Patterson?
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, can you tell me what your education background is?
I have a high school diploma from Augusta High School. I've taken multiple college courses since. In fact, my education background is outlined within our course descriptions because I am one of Ellie's teachers. Look back at our course descriptions. I've taken literature courses. I have taken composition courses, math courses, and I have worked with, I do play multiple instruments, and I've worked within this homeschooling range at least for the last 2 years. CHFM has volunteer requirements, so I've been an in-class student teacher for over 32 hours over the course of the last 3 years.
Do you have any graduation certificates from colleges?
No, I do not.
Do you have any teaching certificates from the state of Kansas?
Not yet, no.
I heard you earlier say something like a learning journey. What do you mean by learning journey?
I'd venture to say that I said something along the lines of educational path. Every single child has their own education and their own path to follow through it.
Now, you testified earlier that you didn't really spot anything until about age 6.5, I think is what you said. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
I would say 6.5 is when we had a solid understanding of, I believe something is not as it should be.
And then you said, I got in research mode, so I was trying to figure out what was going on. Isn't that what you said?
That would be a little bit later. That was after our diagnosis, but that was after our vision testing when I was looking into which testing centers would serve Ellie the best and settled on Fundamental Learning Center.
So it sounds like not only Ellie is on a learning journey, it sounds like you're on a learning journey also. Wouldn't you agree?
I would suppose anyone with a diagnosis like dyslexia is. It is a lifelong learning disability. I've already started to attend lectures on dyslexia. I attended my first yesterday, so I have a plethora of information. I have more scheduled for September 14th. The International Dyslexic Association conference scheduled for September 25th that we can attend.
Okay, let me add, those are good things for parents of dyslexic children to have anyway, wouldn't you agree?
Well, yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. You're on a learning journey because you're trying to figure out this method of teaching, the issues for a child with some special needs. Don't you agree that at the public schools, they have people who already have experience in that, have education in that?
I agree that special education teachers are accessible through IEPs, which is accessible no matter which path we take, public schooling or right now, blended learning.
Now, you stated that you try and stay with Kansas standards for teaching, correct?
We do.
And in fact, FastBridge is one of those standard tests for purposes of gauging that, correct?
Correct.
When did you ever have Ellie do a FastBridge so you could gauge where she is at?
A FastBridge assessment is
No, ma'am, I'm asking, when did you do one with her?
neither Scott or I have ever done one with her.
Okay. When did you have one performed for her?
I have never had one performed for her, neither has Scott.
Okay, but you agree that Scott did so that he could determine where she was at in reference to state standards.
I agree that Megan Cooley did.
And it turned out that there were some problems that were identified, correct?
According to Dr. Tiedemann, every problem identified within the FastBridge test was a sign of her dyslexia and dysgraphia.
Okay. And if FastBridge was provided early in her life, that could have been something also found then earlier, correct?
In fact, no. I've been given several informations that a child as gifted as Ellie may have slipped through the cracks if she was in an environment like that. Children like that tend to memorize words on sight. Like Ellie fully has her name memorized. She can point out Ellie anywhere and would be typically labeled as a C student. In fact, we've caught it pretty early.
Now, let me ask you this. The report from Dr. Tiedemann was August 2nd, 2023, or the evaluation, is that correct?
The evaluation was August.
Very good, thank you. And is that when you started finding out that there might be a dyslexia issue?
I've approached a dyslexia issue as early as April 2023. I was not certain until we had a diagnosis.
And is it Dr. Tiedemann who then suggested Soundcase as the place to start with Ellie?
Yes.
So, and that would have been just as early as like August 2nd then for you to learn that Soundcase is something that should be looked into.
The Fundamental Learning Center's website has Soundcase displayed along with Dr. Tiedemann's information displayed. I had
Okay,
seen
ma'am, I've got a short time here, so I want to really direct you on this question. Okay, so you going to the Soundcase program, that was done at the direction of Dr. Tiedemann, correct?
I had breached the question before because we had looked through the Soundcase material. It was available on the Fundamental Learning Center's website and recommended for a variety of non-readers, whether we were dyslexic or not.
When did you first take their online course for purposes of helping with dyslexia?
That comes after purchasing the Soundcase material itself.
Ma'am, when did you first take the online course?
When I purchased the Soundcase material this past, I would say the Saturday after. So August 7th.
Okay, so very recently, and you were able to start getting some information on how to help Ellie, correct?
It is comprehensive and thorough teaching of how to perform this curriculum.
So something also Scott could do, and he could help her on his time, correct?
Yes, very much so.
And further, that is something that can be done outside of public school to help Ellie.
Yes.
In fact, that's one of the recommendations of Dr. Tiedemann is that the parents would do the Soundcase outside of the normal school setting, correct?
Yes, so it would take an hour each day from Mr. McMurphy.
Okay. And you talked about socialization, and you said that she does receive socialization from Homeschool. Is that correct?
From blended learning, yes.
Okay. But from the schedule, I think I've seen that classroom type setting with multiple kids is one day a week, Monday from 12 to 3. Is that right?
That is our weekly scheduled time, yes.
Okay. And that's something in public school she could get all week long, every day, all day, correct?
Socialization, whether it be positive or negative, she could get through a school or through a public school.
Now, the issue that Dr. Tiedemann brought up about possibly a socialization issue because she wouldn't be around her friends and such if she goes into the first grade versus second grade.
Can you tell me what you're referring to exactly?
Sure. Let's look at Exhibit Q or O, Exhibit O. That is Dr. Tiedemann's discussion about homeschool versus public school. And I'm sorry, not homeschool versus public school, but whether first grade or second grade should be used, correct?
So you are referring to, in my opinion, I think given Ellie's high cognitive level, it is more beneficial for her to stay with her peers and move to second grade for 2023-2024 with extensive one-on-one direct instruction and Orton Gilligan multisensory tutoring.
Yes, my question to you is, if she goes to public school now in the first grade or second grade, she's not going to have to worry about the peers that she's losing. It'll be all new peers, correct?
She will have to worry about not seeing her friends anymore. She won't have the school with them anymore, but they stated her peers, not necessarily her friends.
Whether it's first or second grade at a new school, it'd be new peers, correct?
Whether it's first or second grade at a new school, she would no longer see her friends through CHFM, correct? Unless we scheduled that time otherwise.
Judge, no other questions?
Very well. I will note that the mother in this case has completed her time. You have a slight amount of time remaining, Mr. Patterson, if you desire to use it.
No, Your Honor, waive that time.
All right. I do believe that I would take a brief set of closing remarks, kind of summarizing what your client's position might be. I'll start off with you, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Judge. And Judge, I will tell the court that my client's position is that they have a special needs child that's been identified now. Whether it could have been identified earlier or not, in a public setting where they have people with education, people with experience, where they have people who have testing that are set up, standard testing yearly. We don't know, and we won't know that. But going forward, my client is very concerned about not having those available to the special needs child. He does want to make sure that we have the personnel that can help her most. Not a learning journey for both teacher and child, but a setting where they have things to help a dyslexic child, and that would put the IEP to the best use. They know how to do that in public school. The private school that is being suggested by the respondent is just outside of financial reach of this family. It would be, talk about something that'd be nice. It's not available today, but it's also outside reach, and we don't know if they would qualify for some type of assistance on that. So it's not something that is known at this point on whether it's even viable, and it's certainly not affordable. So of the choices, my client does ask the court to consider the needs of this child, that he believes it's in the child's best interest to get those in a public school where they have experience for that. And he is asking the court to move forward with a public school setting. Again, the Bass Bridge suggested first grade. Dr. Tiedemann was concerned, but her concern kind of is mixed. She said, going to first grade might cause these problems, going to second grade might cause these problems. So she didn't really give it a clear opinion, but the peer issue, she would be going to a first grade with brand new kids, but her age isn't that far off. So she would fit in well. And my client be asking that she begin school either at Augusta or Benton. Either one, he said, is available. And he lives in Augusta, but public school setting to start immediately, Judge. Thank you.
Very well. Ms. Broyles?
Thank you, Your Honor. What we have here is a smart little girl who struggles to learn the same way other kids do. Public school is for kids who can learn the traditional way, and that's not Ellie, Your Honor. You know, she wouldn't, at public school, she wouldn't get the one-on-one she needs. There's no clear directive here as to what public school would even look like for Ellie. Yeah, they're saying give her an IEP, but she can also do that with homeschool. And that's something that Ms. Cheswick testified that she's planning to do, is to also do an IEP in addition to homeschooling and the hybrid co-op that she's currently doing. That solution is to throw her in public school and let them handle the problem. He's never participated in schooling. He testified to that today. He's never done the homeschooling. Ms. Cheswick has always done the homeschooling. She's been incredibly hands-on. When she recognized there was a problem with Ellie's reading, she got the vision test done. She got the Dr. Tiedemann to do the evaluation here. So, and then immediately getting the dyslexia and dysgraphia and ADHD diagnosis, she jumped into research. She found the Rolf School. She toured it yesterday. She has looked into scholarships. Yeah, we don't know right now whether or not they will be able to get a scholarship, but that's something we can figure out down the road. So, and it sounds like both parties would love to send her there if that's possible. But the question right now, obviously the most pressing issue is what to do right now. And the right answer here is to allow her to continue to homeschool and to do the hybrid school that she's been doing the last 2 years. That's what she knows. That's what she's comfortable with. The right answer is not to throw a second grader who can't read into public school with a bunch of second graders who can read. I mean, that would be incredibly traumatizing. Dr. Tiedemann stated as such in her email that we've discussed today, that it can lead to lower overall achievement, poor self-esteem, emotional and social problems. That's not the answer. The answer is to allow her to continue at her pace, doing her individualized schooling that Ms. Chesick has done extensive research into. She has incorporated Dr. Tiedemann's recommendation into her schooling. She's familiar, obviously, with Ellie and her schooling, and she's doing everything she can to do what's in the best interest of Ellie and to get her the individualized schooling that she needs. And so, Your Honor, we're asking the court to allow Ellie to continue the homeschooling / the co-op hybrid school that she's been doing. And if they can get her into the Rolf School, the parties can address that at a later time. The other alternative would be to, she's been homeschooling and now she's going to go to public school. And then if they can get her into Rolf, then she's going to go to private school. That's a lot of transition for a 6-year-old with a learning disability that has these special needs. She needs consistency, and Ms. Chesick can provide that. She can provide the one-on-one individualized attention that she needs, and she's been doing that. And she's, like I said, incorporated the recommendations of Dr. Tiedemann into her curriculum. She's doing the research. She's dove head into this diagnosis and is doing everything she can to learn about this diagnosis and what she can do to best serve Ellie. And so clearly Ms. Chesick is trying to do everything in her power to do what's in the best interest of Ellie, and that is to have her remain in homeschool with Ms. Chesick. So that's what we're asking the court to do today. Thank you.
Thank you for a clear and concise argument, counsel. I understand your position. Joint legal custody connotes that the parents are going to make decisions themselves for the best interest of their children, that they're going to confer about important issues, and this is certainly one of those important issues, and try to reach a consensus as to what's best for that child or their children as a whole. Unfortunately, the parents in this case were not able to, as joint legal custodians, and by the way, shared residential custodians, reach a consensus as to what was best regarding this child's education. It would be difficult for this court to ignore the obvious dedication that the mother has toward this child's welfare and her educational progress. That is not to say that Mr. McMurphy doesn't share concern regarding his daughter's educational process, or we wouldn't be here. The court cannot ignore also part of the Tiedemann report that essentially states Ellie's reading abilities are a significant weakness. She goes on to say Ellie's writing skills fell significantly below expectations. Now, the mother's position would be, well, she's achieving at the highest level she can for her. And there's a certain truth to that, which is obvious from all of the evaluative documents that the court has considered. And by the way, counsel, thank you for providing your materials in advance the way that you did. But the reality is this court has now been put in a position to make a decision between competing parents' interests as to what's best for this minor child. This is better a decision for the parents than it is for this court. But nevertheless, based on the information that has been provided, the court will make certain findings at this time. The court finds at this time that this child is not achieving in accord with peers of the same age. She's significantly underperforming in the fundamental areas of reading and writing. The court also finds at this time that it has been shown that this child might be adequately educated in a homeschool setting. This child might also be adequately educated in a public school setting. The court believes that both programs have the resources potentially available to provide an adequate education for this child. At this stage, however, this court recognizes that this child, Ellie, has some educational challenges which need special attention and will continue to need special attention for a very long time. It's going to be, in the court's view, 12 months of dedication. Why traditional schools use a 9-month calendar, I don't know. It's an agrarian calendar, so kids can work on the farm in the summer. But here we are in 2023 with almost no kids working on a farm, and we've maintained the same ignorant schedule. Education is a 12-month-a-year process, and particularly for this child, I have no doubt that the mother in this case is willing to make a 12-month dedication. I hope that Mr. McMurphy is willing to make the same commitment, because it's clear to this court that not only they need to be teachers outside of any other formal teacher that they might have, but also to reinforce the previous achievements that this child has attained. Clear that the mother is willing to make that commitment. And again, it's this court's hope that the father, by bringing this motion, is willing to make the same commitment. So for him to be successful, the court would have to require him to homeschool as well. The mother took this on and convinced that she could handle it. Unfortunately, this court cannot make a finding that this child at this stage is educationally thriving. If she were, it would be easy for this court to reject Mr. McMurphy's challenge and just leave the child in the situation she's in. But the court is of the belief that, based on the recommendations of the Tiedemann report, that there's an individualized educational program that can be available to her in a public school setting with all of the resources that a public school can bear on her individual problems, and hopefully to even expand the resources available that essentially taxpayers are already paying for to help this child. If the court doesn't take that step, then I would be forcing one of two things to happen on the McMurphy side of this case. Require him to homeschool just as extensively as the mother, because this is an equal time shared custody situation. So the court doesn't believe that this homeschooling can just be done half the time when the child is with the mother. So either I force Mr. McMurphy to homeschool and make an extensive dedication of time and resources and impose lifestyle change on him and his household unit, when I don't think that was ever part of the deal, or just set aside the shared custody order and find that the mother should be the primary residential custodian so that she can full-time homeschool. The court's not inclined to do that. The court is of the belief that the party's original plan for shared custody should be upheld by this court. Mr. McMurphy wants to be an active and involved parent. The court is going to ask him to step up to the plate and do it. And the court believes that it's in the best interest of this child for this academic school year to be enrolled to immediately undergo the process for evaluation for an individualized educational program, which is clear as she qualifies for, to bring all the public school resources to bear to obtain the best educational outcomes for Eleanor. Whether she should be enrolled in the first grade or second grade, this court is in no position to determine. That is a position to either be agreed upon by both parents, and if there needs to be a tiebreaker, it is the officials at the school that need to break that tie. And the recommendation ultimately made by the officials at the school will determine her grade placement, unless the parents agree. And you very well may be able to reach a consensus over the weekend, because that's all the time you have, as to how she's to be enrolled as a first grader or a second grader. I share the same concerns regarding whether she's put in first or whether she's put in second that was outlined in the report. There are negatives to both and positives to both. I think that that's better a decision for the joint legal custodians to make in conjunction with conversations with the school that she's going to be entering. Mr. McMurphy, this child does have some educational options: private school placement, public school placement, or homeschooling. Perhaps in her situation, this should be looked at every year. What's best for her this year? What's available to her this year? What can we afford this year? May be a consideration. Parents have to make these difficult decisions, and you and Isabel need to make these together. And I hope that you can be on the same page for the rest of her educational program. She appears to be an extremely talented child, basically, from the overall report. A whiz in math, struggles with reading and writing, She's obviously got a lot on the ball, and she's certainly worth the investment and time of resources that both of you are going to have to put in to make sure she's successful. So good luck in that regard. Mr. Patterson, do you need further clarification regarding the court's order?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Broyles, do you need any further clarifications regarding the court's order?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. Good luck. I would expect maybe that on Monday morning, both parents will free up their calendars to go in and take her into school and meet with school officials, because I think you both need to be involved right from the outset and be involved in that very first contact with the school. I trust somebody in Benton might be ready for this, Mr. McMurphy.
Yes.
I don't know if it would be the principal, the counselor,
Yes, the
special
principal.
education director. I don't know who it might be, but I hope there's a team ready to accept you on Monday morning and have some discussions with you and Isabel about Eleanor. And I wish her luck. It's going to be a new experience for her, but it could be a very exciting and very productive one for her. And I hope that the parents approach it in that vein, that we're doing this for her and we're going to give this a good, solid try. We're going to invest in it. We're going to believe in it. We're going to back it. And we hope to get out of it, what I think the public school system is set up to provide. Mr. Patterson, if you'll draft an appropriate order stemming from today's proceedings.
Yes, Your Honor.
Last but not least, this issue is not before the court. I am not making any ruling, but it seems to the court that a week-to-week shared custody plan would be more compatible with the traveling to school and establishing a new travel routine for this child rather than 223. If that's no longer a schedule issue for the father, it just seems to the court that the parents ought to at least consider that, though that is not an order of the court, because that is not an issue currently before it. Just merely an advisory suggestion for the parents to at least talk about it and consider.
And
All right.
Judge, I would note that that was a part of the motion. It was not set for today, but it is still something that has to be determined, and that kind of has been put off for a little while yet.
Yes, understood. And
Thank you.
I thought at one time that was going to go to alternative dispute resolution if they didn't reach an agreement.
Yes, Judge, we were waiting to see what the school issue was and then see if the parents can work out an agreement before they go there.
All right, I think that's a prudent approach, Mr. Patterson. But again, if you'll promptly draft this order and try to get it circulated so we can get to the court as soon as possible.
Yes, Judge.
All right, thank you. Thank you both for the quality of not only your written materials that you've presented, but also the conciseness and clarity of your presentations this afternoon. Greatly appreciated by the court. I wish the family luck. If there's nothing further, this matter is currently in recess. Mandy, you may.